Start recording. Stop recording.
Chapter 18. Robo George and the Herald 2000. Attention boys and girls, said Mr. Krupp to the fourth graders. Your teacher, Miss Ribble, didn't come to school today. Hooray! Shouted the children. Settle down, Mr. Krupp shouted. You're still going to have all your classes. Oh man, moaned the children. But you're going to have a substitute teacher, said Mr. Krupp. Hooray! Shouted the children. And it's going to be me, said Mr. Krupp. Oh man, moaned the children. The whole day was pretty much like a normal day, except for one thing. Mr. Krupp couldn't understand why George and Harold were so well behaved. They didn't make funny noises during science class. They didn't stick crayons up their nose during art class. And they didn't draw comic books during math class. In fact, they even walked past a sign without changing the letters around. Mr. Krupp was stunned. Sign. Today's lunch, genetically modified meat flavored beef with extra bovine growing hormones. What? All right, you two, Mr. Krupp shouted. I know you're up to something. You better stop being so good or you're gonna be in big trouble. So you're telling me when they're bad, you want them to get out of trouble, but when they're good, you want them to get in trouble? This here don't make no sense. But Robo George and the Herald 2000 kept right on behaving. The only time they did something even remotely wrong was during recess. Everybody was playing kickball, and when it was the Herald 2000's turn to kick the ball, he kicked it pretty darn hard. Ka-boing! The kickball tore right through the top of page 57 and out the other side as it sailed towards the outer regions of Earth's atmosphere. Soon as it broke free out of our planet's gravitational pull and began heading straight towards the planet Uranus. Shouted Mr. Krupp as he pulled out the official school rulebook and read, Rule 411 out loud. It is against the rules to kick school property into outer space. You're in trouble now, bub. But the Herald 2000 ignored Mr. Krupp and began running around the bases. Hey, I'm talking to you, Hutchins, Mr. Krupp shouted. He pointed at the Herald 2000 and and snapped his fingers. Snap. Suddenly, Mr. Krupp began to change. A silly-looking smile stretched across his face, and he stood behind the fourth graders, looking quite heroic. Quickly he turned and ran back into the school. I'm reading one more chapter. Chapter 19. Tra-la-la. Tra-la-la lunatics. Suddenly, several minutes later, Captain Underpants flew out of Mr. Cripp's window. As the hero zipped across the sky, he let out a triumphant tra-la-la-la. When Robo George and the Herald 2000 heard the words tra-la-la-la, they immediately stopped playing kickball. Suddenly, their arms began to extend and their legs stretched toward the sky. Strange secret compartments in their ever growing torsos opened up, revealing giant rocket boosters and the latest in advanced aviation technology. Steel panels on their faces and bodies expanded wildly as their complex structures swelled to highly improbable proportions. Suddenly, flames shot out of their extra thrusters as their bodies rose into the air. In no time at all, two gigantic robots were flying in hot pursuit of the amazing Captain Underpants. George and Harold are in big trouble now, said Melvin Sneedley as he read rule number 7734 of Mr. Cripp's official school rulebook out loud. It is against the rule for students to transform into giant flying robots during afternoon recess. The real George and Harold, however, had more on their minds at the moment than a few broken rules. They watched the action unfold on a big screen TV in Wedgie Woman's horrible hair had built by combining spare parts of a fish tank and electric toothbrush. The colossal robots surrounded Captain Underpants, but surprisingly, the waistband warrior looked happy to see them. George, Harold, said Captain Underpants, my, how you boys have grown. And I didn't know you could fly. That's great. Now you can help me fight for truth. What? Truth juice and all that is shrunk and cottony. But the gigantic robots didn't respond. Instead, they hovered close to Captain Underpants as their steel chest plates opened up. Suddenly, two extendable robotic arms reached out and began showering Captain Underpants with liquid spray starch. What are you doing? Cried Captain Underpants. That's spray starch. It's the only thing in the world that can take away My superpowers! The waistband warrior screamed in horror as he began falling through the sky. Robo George quickly swooped down, grabbed the helpless hero, and hung him by his waistband on a tall pole high above the country's streets.